everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Biters, the Walking Dead podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jeff Marsick, screenwriter and comic book writer. And with me is...
Kirk Manley, comic book artist and illustrator. And I co-create with Jeff the comic book Z-Girl and the Four Tigers. You can learn more about that at zgirl.org.
Very good, very good. Good intro. So... we are here to talk about the second to last episode of season 4.
We're here to talk about us.
Right, we are. That's right. This is all about us this week.
It's all about us.
And clearly, people who've watched the show know that we're not just egomaniacs. That was actually the title of this week's episode. We are egomaniacs too, but we try to keep that under control.
To a minimal. Just want to shout out to people that it's been a gas doing a lot of the live tweeting during the shows.
Oh, yeah.
Want to make sure people follow Batman KM and at Batman KM and at J Marzick and at Biters Podcast on Twitter. And some of the stuff that gets said on there during the show is just hilarious. But it does make the show, as Jeff has mentioned before, it makes the show go really fast, which is kind of the downside. But it's a lot of fun to do, and we hope people are getting into it.
It's tough too. When I'm doing it, I've got, like I said before, I have TweetDeck going, and I've got the Walking Dead, the hashtag Walking Dead up. And so that thing is going by. It's like watching, like when you get on CNBC and you see the stock tickers going around the bottom. Right. Yeah, speed that up about like 50 times. Yeah. And that's what's going by. So I just see a blur of words and pictures, and some people coming up with some pretty funny stuff. Yeah,
you're better at it than me because. First of all, I'm a slow typer, and I'm doing it with my thumbs, which is like I might as well be trying to type my toes. You know what I mean? But I can only do it during the commercials, and it's pretty funny. But yeah, Jeff comes up with some really funny ones. And the other day, that TweetDeck thing, man, that spoiled you the other day on the comic, though.
Yeah.
Well, I forgot to mention to you that before. The Grove 2 weeks ago's episode. I didn't say anything to you because I didn't want to spoil you. I had the exact same thing happen just before the episode started, and it was a picture of from someone had gotten. I don't know how they got it, but it was a picture of Lizzie holding the knife and Mika lying dead behind her.
Oh, no way!
And I was like, oh my God! And then the episode started. I was like, oh man, I'm screwed. But so yeah, it can be a little dangerous. But we try not to tweet when we do the live tweeting. We try not to tweet spoilers. Sometimes it's hard not to, but we try.
Yeah, and I'm also going to preface this episode to this podcast too by saying that we're going to talk about Terminus probably, most likely, and we're both going to be pretty vague about it, as in talking about. I think what we think Terminus might possibly be. We're not going to come out and say the words.
Who says we're going to be vague?
No. So if you want to know like what we're talking about, a simple Google search will fill you in. But we're not gonna connect the dots for you. We'll be.
You mean in terms of like the comic and the show?
Yeah.
And what we think it is.
Yeah. And there's something I'm gonna talk about. One of the characters I'm gonna talk about in this episode too. That it's wholly based on my observations on the show. Has nothing to do with the comic, and I'm not bringing any. Basically what I'm trying to say is my
what
analysis
are you saying?
is going. What there are words coming out of your mouth.
There are words. They're not making a lot of sense, but there are words.
Now you know what it's like to listen to you.
Touche.
No, but what I'm trying to say is that I'm going to anything I say, I'm trying to distance myself from the comic book. So it's all based on what I see on the show. And so anybody listening, don't get mad at me if it just happens to. All
right. I'm because I'm like really into reading the comic. I'm always cross, comparing in my head. But I will definitely try to not do that today.
Because we want to make, because I mean, the big question is what's going to happen next week?
Yeah,
Kirkman said that it's going to be this massive, thing, capital THING. So, and we haven't had the big finale yet. So
my guess is, I think people are. I'm trying to lower the expectations, but my expectations for what's going to happen next week is pretty low. I think that the impression I got just from what we saw at the end here this week, it kind of implies to me that this is going to be a fairly big chunk of story.
Uh-huh.
I don't think it's going to necessarily kind of all be explained and unraveled and opened up and exposed in the finale. My guess is that the cliffhanger ending will solidify what's going on there, but the resolution of it and everything else is going to be all next season.
Oh yeah,
that's my guess. What
yeah.
I mean, which is going to be aggravating.
Well, yeah, especially if they do like this season and it's kind of it's an intense episode and then a couple where
well, if this is
Beth, and then another intense episode, and then another Beth episode.
Yeah, and if this is the Hunter storyline that it's unfolding, and we don't know if it is or not, but if it is from the comic, that was a full trade, so 6 or 7 issues,
right,
of the book. I can't imagine that they would just do a quick one episode type of version of that. So. The other thing I wanted to remind people, we got a bunch of comments at Facebook and messages and stuff, so we're going to read those later on after our review, and we really appreciate the feedback. It's great that people are listening. It's great people are giving us their comments, and we want that. We want everybody to know we really appreciate that, and hope you keep doing that. You can also, in addition to our Facebook page, you can also hit us up at biterspodcast@gmail.com. No one has done that as of yet, but just want to make sure people have that option if they want. You can also tweet us at those tweets that we had mentioned before. At Biters Podcast would probably be the best. And so anyway, keep bringing in the comments, the messages. We really appreciate it, and it's good feedback for us.
All right. So before we get going, the numbers this week. So this week, not much that they had competition against NCAA, but there was only one late game that night. So the ratings were...
Is that the one with the puck, or is that the one with the goalposts?
Yeah.
They play that on ice?
Yeah. You could not find a more non-sports...
Careful.
Family show. Yeah, someone more or less savvy when it comes to sports than Kirk. Even though Kirk says that he's a Giants fan, a Jets fan, Yankees fan.
I am a Giants fan when in the postseason, in playoffs and stuff like that. I just have never been into watching sports. I've played sports all my life. I still do. And
a guy at your age, that's risky.
I am telling you, man, it's dangerous. But it always bored me to watch it. I always would sit there and be like, I'd much rather be out doing it than sitting here watching it, So that was just so I don't know a lot of the lingo or the details of broadcast sports.
So yes, basketball is the big round orange.
Oh,
ball.
I know that one.
Yeah. The one that you don't play with, you probably don't play with your, able to leap small stacks of change. Vertical leap.
I got that 1.5 vertical rise. You know what I mean?
1.5 credit cards.
1.5 inches. 1.5 credit cards.
In width.
Stacked.
Yes.
What am I laughing at? Why am I laughing?
Anyway,
right. So what were the ratings?
So 13, just shy of 13.5 million.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
into the end there with the boost.
Yeah, what do we have? What, 12,
12-8?
12-8?
Yeah, I think it was, or 12-9.
So, and then Talking Dead. I mean, Talking Dead has really been picking up this season too. So they pulled in like 5.3 million.
Well,
And then
they had Glenn on. They had the actor that plays Glenn
and Eugene.
What?
And the guy who played Eugene.
And the guy who played Eugene, right? Who was great, but
he was.
I didn't watch the whole episode. I watched about half of it.
He was such a departure from his character. Like,
yeah,
there wasn't any.
Except for that weird dyed hair he had. I don't know. He must have a role where he's got his hair looked horrible. But
what was interesting? I don't typically watch a show just because I just have a natural. I don't know. I just don't like Chris Hardwick. It's not that I don't like him. I just I don't know. I can't watch it. It's unwatchable to me. Anyway, they were talking about the set, the tunnel that they went through.
Yeah.
And how it was all wood. I mean, that was all made. There wasn't an actual tunnel that they found and did all that stuff. So all those rocks that they were climbing over and stuff, those are all just, styrofoam and wood stuff. And there was one thing funny. What's his name? Stephen Yoon, who plays Glenn. He was saying that they were filming in there for so long that one of the scenes, I guess they must have had people in there. I kind of stopped in on the show when I was coming back from basketball, and they said that they had like people who were really flexible, double jointed kind of thing that were like laying.
Well, there was one zombie that was on his back. He was near the floor, and you could tell his shoulders were like dislocated.
Yeah,
and his arms were moving, and it didn't look like props. So yeah, I'm not surprised. That's really cool that they do that. That they try to use real stunt people and stuff to do stuff as opposed to always doing animatronics.
So Stephen Yoon said that there was one scene where he's walking up with Tara, and they have a sight line. Like there's one spot where they're looking down. This guy, zombie wasn't actually in the shot, but he's in their sight line. He said the dude's passed out, just completely asleep, and like the drool's like coming out of the side of his mouth. So they're sitting there, doing their lines. And here's this dude passed out. Pretty funny.
There was one though in that scene that was so obviously faked. It was a quick cut, and it was from behind the zombies that are approaching them after they've climbed up onto the top, and it was obviously they were trying to get a cool shot. It reminded me of that in issue 1 of Z-Girl where she runs up the stairs where the Monkey King or the monkey guys are, and they're blowing holes through her, and you can see through her. There's a zombie. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? The zombie turns, and you can see right through the holes in their chest and everything else. But the way it moved, it was clearly a dummy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's when they do that, it definitely takes me out of it a little bit, but it was quick and it was short. And then the other thing cool, since we're talking about it, we might as well bring it up, but have you been seeing the picture going around of Nicotero's tribute to Bub from Day of the Dead?
No.
Oh, I'll send it to you. I don't know. I tweeted it. I don't know if I posted it to Facebook, but there was a zombie in that mix that's on the other side of the rocks that is a spitting image of Bub from Day of the Dead, which is the zombie that the doctors are trying to domesticate in that movie, and it was really pretty cool.
All right. So speaking of Nicotero, he actually directed this episode.
Oh, really? That's interesting. I didn't know that.
And the two writers on this, there was Nicole Beatty and Seth Hoffman. And Seth, they're both also producers on Walking Dead. Last time he wrote a Walking Dead episode was Too Far Gone last year. Oh no, I'm sorry. Claimed.
Claimed was his from that season. That's episode 2.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I have that down as a note to talk about. That the season's episode 2 was called Claimed, and yet this episode was where we got all the explanation of what claimed was. I'm assuming that's because Claimed was. I don't remember the exchange. I didn't go back and look, but I'm assuming that some of the dialogue between the two guys that are fighting over the bed was that, one claimed it,
right.
And the other guy's like, you, I'm on it, I'm sleeping, and he's like, no, I claimed it, and then boom. So. And
then Nicole Beatty, like I said, she's a producer as well, and the last time she and Seth both wrote Claimed, but then she also did Live Bait before that.
Hmm.
So
Live
anyway,
Bait, was that this season?
Live Bait was.
I don't think so.
No, that was last season, but that
Yeah.
was the one we were walking down the. Remember, they're walking down the road, and he's got the girls with him, and then they see Live Bait, that sign, over on the side of the road. He grabs the little girl.
Who's he?
He holds her. The governor.
Oh yeah, okay.
The governor
right.
picks up the little girl.
Yep.
Okay, so what'd you think?
Well, I thought it was a decent episode. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I expected a little more given its second to last position,
Sure.
in the season. I have a bunch of good stuff, but compared to last week where I had like zero. Was it last week I had zero bad?
Yeah.
Yeah. But this week I got a few bads.
All right. So what's your goods on?
My goods. My goods. The final 1 minute introduction to Terminus was super eerie, super creepy. I thought Denise Crosby was a great surprise. I didn't know that was coming. Tasha Yar.
That's how I always know her, is Tasha Yar.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the way she greets them with her back to them, and then she turns around and you got that big cooker there, which is ominous. And and then she says, "Let's make you a plate," and that could be taken kind of literally, I suppose. But
Yep.
I thought that was cool. Although there are issues with that Terminus, that final scene that I'll talk about in my bads. But that part of it, I really thought was cool. Did you see going around the internet as well? I'll send it to you again if I didn't, and we should probably post it too. There's some pictures of, I'm calling her Scary Mary, online of her compared to the painting that Michonne finds in episode 2, claimed, interestingly enough, obviously, same writers, obviously, that this is they're looping that back. But there's a comparison picture which puts the portrait of that she finds that is all got it's got the cut up mouth, and it's got the red blood on it, and it's a woman's face, and then Mary's face next to it, and it's pretty clear that that's the same person, because and the way they did it, because it's a kind of juvenile looking painting, not juvenile, but very kind of unphotorealistic. It's but her hair is almost exactly the same. So it's pretty clear that painting was of Mary.
Huh.
Now, what the significance of that, and then there's another picture that shows comparison. The other thing too is as you're walking in, there's all these sunflowers.
Yeah.
Well, one of the paintings that Michonne stops and claimed in season 2, in episode 2, and looks at it and admires on the wall is this big sunflower. Same house, same painting, same person painted it, obviously, because it's the same style. So there's some sort of relationship between Mary, whether we'll find out about what it is or not, I don't know. It could just be they're doing it to kind of, be, I don't know, subtle about it or whatever, but we may find out. But there's obviously some sort of relationship between Mary and that house. And
we should have picked up on that. We're always picking up on relationships. We know nothing is throwaway in this show.
Yeah, no, for sure. And of course, we know in that house was one of the scariest things we've seen. Which is that whole suicide of the children and murder suicide that took place, obviously. So I think that's really cool. I love how they're tying that in and stuff. I thought Maggie and Glenn's reunion was real heartfelt. I thought that. I've got issues with how it all came to be and then what happened after, but their actual greeting and everything, it was pretty cool, and with everybody watching, and it was kind of this real strong positive message of, you got to have a little bit of hope, you got to hang to it, you got to stick to it, and then sometimes it pays off, and I think everyone's feeling pretty depressed at this point, and this was a little bit of an uplift for them, which is probably ominous or foreshadowing of bad stuff to come. But and then of course when she burns the picture, that was almost too obvious, of foreshadowing. But I also wouldn't be surprised if they clearly know that everybody's trying to read into all the different things that are happening as this is foreshadowing of that, and sometimes it is. But I wouldn't be surprised too if they're just trying to get us thinking that one of them, Glenn or Maggie, isn't going to make it through the season, but that's just misdirection.
Well, I totally know that like Greg Nicotero and Kirkman get together, before this episode, and are like, all right, what are Marsick and Manley going to talk about on Biters afterwards? Which way are they going to go? We got to try to juke them. So,
I thought Tara did a pretty good job. I think that it's kind of sad. She's like a beaten dog, and she's really becoming consumed with what I see as kind of self-hate for having teamed up with the governor. She's just beating herself. I think that I'll talk in my bad section about I don't think necessarily the way Glenn is dealing with her is the best way, but I thought her performance was good. I thought her character is doing a good job, and she's almost kind of like not suicidal, but what's the term I want for she's kind of like throwing herself in haphazardly, almost kind of like a death wish. You know what I mean?
And I think that that's you've said for a while, for a few weeks, that you don't think she's going to be long for the show, and I think that the only way that she can really redeem herself in her eyes, is she's going to have to do a sacrifice.
Right.
Like she's going to have to do something and put herself on the pyre. So,
well, I think the hope was that she, or her hope, or the character's hopes were that, by helping him find Maggie, she would redeem herself. And I thought it was kind of interesting that then when he introduces her to Maggie, he pedals over or avoids sidesteps what her real connection is, in order to avoid saying, hey, this is one of the people involved in killing your father. And I thought that was probably the right thing to do, but it seemed like you could see in Tara, when she then hugs Maggie or whatever, or Maggie hugs her, that there's that guilt is even worse.
Well, this cannot possibly end in a Tyrese Carroll moment. Not at all.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is it's just funny to hear you say, that she helped him find Maggie. She didn't do anything. She was just walked with him.
You're absolutely right. She supported his effort to find Maggie.
Exactly.
Yeah, she didn't really help him at all. I thought the Daryl sequences were good. Funny, I read a review online that referred to this new group as Daryl and the Merletones. I thought that was pretty funny. I'm impressed with the Joe character, and I even kind of like him in spite of the fact that he's such a bad guy. And I think, in my mind, they have accomplished in 2 episodes with Joe what they failed to do in 2 seasons with the governor. That's just my opinion. But I mean, essentially, they were trying to do something like that with the governor. It seemed like they were trying to make him complex. They were trying to make him have a moral code, but yet be this evil bad guy. So you were torn and conflicted. I was never torn or conflicted, man. The governor was bad news.
Right.
This guy, I'm conflicted.
Right.
He's bad news, but he's bad news because he's smart, and he's got a moral code, and he follows it, and you almost respect that. You know what I mean? So that they've done a great job in just, now maybe it's partly the actor, but I don't think so. I think it's the writing. Let's see. I loved his reference to Rick as a piece of fecal matter. That was classic. And then he had 2 great lines too. I laid out some rules of the road to keep us from going Darwin every couple of hours. That's what I want to keep in my book of quotes. Ain't nothing worse than an outdoor cat that thinks he's an indoor cat.
That was awesome. That was
awesome.
Fantastic quote.
Yeah, it was great. And then, of course, I like that you find out that near the end that they're actually on a mission, because they come into their first stopover, and and they look through and they're like, yeah, nobody's here, they're not here, and it's clear that they're following somebody or looking for somebody, but it wasn't,
Right.
it wasn't. And then of course you find out near at the end, and I thought that was really cool. And a great way to tie in. Again, in this, there's always consequences, and Rick
Yeah.
did what he needed to do to get out of that house,
Yeah.
because he would have been dead meat, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now there's a consequence for that, and what's that going to mean? So I love that. It seemed to me like, oh, well, wait, you know what, since I brought it up in that segment, some people have complained about the fact that Daryl, when he comes out of the whole thing with the rabbit was kind of, I mean, it was all right. It was good because of what it established, but it was a little. Plus, who the heck keeps a dead rabbit in their
Right.
bag? They caught it in the morning. It was early morning when they woke up and he wasn't there. So then they go out to get him, and he's hunting the rabbit. So then it's that night they go to that car place,
Yep.
sleep overnight. They get up in the morning and they have the confrontation about the rabbit. So that's a day, and that's like 30 hours. That rabbit is not edible.
That is some
Right?
nappy rabbit. Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, it's in a trash bag
Right.
in Georgia. Actually, maybe it's cooked. It might be done.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, so that was kind of a weak thing, I thought. But people have been complaining. I've been reading about or making comment that Daryl's flipping back to his old self, and you can see that when he comes out, he's going to put the sheet over the guy, and he doesn't, and that he's and I did not read it that way at all.
Oh, not at all.
Not at all. I think Daryl is clearly, when he in some of the comments he says to Joe, like, there's no us. You know what I mean? And Joe knows, he's like only there for a while. You know what I mean? And Joe's trying to get him to stay because he realizes he's a super valuable asset. But I didn't see it that way. I saw what he did with that sheet is that guy was a jerk. The guy was an ass. He didn't deserve the respect that putting that blanket over him would have meant. And if anything,
absolutely,
that was very consistent with what he and Beth did in that in the golf place.
Oh yeah.
And then, but why didn't he take the arrow?
That's what I thought he was going to do. When he reaches down, at first he gets the sheep, but I thought he was going to get the arrow. Yeah.
Man, I'm starting to get a little tired of the endless ammo scenario. No one's very, very rarely are they running out of bullets. He's like always got bow.
The unbreakable bolts.
Yeah, exactly. So he should have taken the arrow. Then what else? The last thing I had for good. It was more of a prediction, so I'll wait on that. So that's pretty much it. Those are the things that I thought were good. What about you? What did you think was good?
All right, so for my good is I liked the opening sequence. I liked even though we only saw him for all of that teaser, which was 30 seconds. Were they in the teaser?
Refresh my memory on the opener.
It's the one with Michonne and Carl and Rick.
Is that the one where they're on the train tracks?
Yeah, they're on the train tracks. And a little playfulness between Michonne and Carl, and
that was much better than the cheese whiz. That's for sure.
Terribly, so much better. But the thing was great was because you got Rick in front, and he's trying to be his normal, lack of personality self, and he turns around, and here's these two. They've got this little competition between them. That was loud.
Sorry, I tried to cover. Pathetic today. Sorry, guys.
So, but then he turns around and you can see it's almost like the parent looking back at the two kids who are being unruly. They're not supposed to. Yeah. But then he softens and he sees, they had the bet going. I love Michonne when she's like, she pulls out the two candy bars and he's like, what was the big one that he wanted? And she was like, oh man, don't go for that one. And
yeah,
like, that's a bet.
Why can't they use real candy bars? I mean, you would think they'd be able to hit up Nestle's or whatever and have sponsorship. I mean, they had these like generic candy bars.
Yeah. So I like that. I thought
that
that
was
was
good too.
nice. I liked, and like you said, that was much better than the whole cheese whiz thing. I like the fact that we finally, thank goodness, we finally got Glenn and Maggie together. Just finally put that one to an end. Glenn was not nearly as annoying as he typically was this episode. But like you said, when they first get together, it was emotional, and that was, and the music in the background. So that was great. But then later on, and I made a comment to, and I'll bring up her email or her message later to Kathleen when I was made mention about this, is that, was I the only one who thought that it seemed like, when they first meet, it's just like, they miss each other and there's all this emotion. And then the next time you see him, she's laying down, he's sitting next to her, they're not touching. I was like, if I had gone
right
this long thinking that my significant other was dead, be dead.
We'd be a pretzel for like hours.
Oh, absolutely. A PDA like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden it just became like, they weren't, it was just weird.
Well, what I think, my feeling on them is that there's some sort of, the chemistry has been lost between them, I think, as actors.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
and I don't know if it's the writing or if it's that there's just isn't, she's great by herself. And I don't have as much problem with him as I did last season when he's by himself. I think he's, pretty solid. But then together, there just isn't that chemistry. I don't buy it.
Even Carol and Carol and Daryl.
Yeah.
Daryl and Beth. There's much more chemistry between the
absolutely.
two of them.
I mean, that was absolutely.
And they're not in love. These two are supposed to be in love. I don't know. Maybe she's got halitosis or something. He just keeps his distance from. But so I just that struck me as weird.
Well, they used to have. I think their dynamic of their relationship was different when they first started, and she was very aggressive and I don't want to say dominant, but very assertive and aggressive. And he was kind of this like inexperienced young kid, young guy, and he's fumbling about. The sex, and he's fumbling over, what to say to her and everything else. And it was a very different kind of dynamic, and it seemed to click. There was definitely chemistry there, and it seemed like when that whole thing with the governor happened and they wrote him after that as being, so upset by that and so controlling then of her and everything else. I just, from then on, it's been tough with them together, just hard to buy.
Yeah. So. Yeah. My other good was I love Joe and his gang.
Yeah.
Joe is played by the actor Jeff Kober, who, if you look at his IMDb page, man, this guy's a journeyman. He's been everywhere. When everybody brings him up, they always mention that he was in Sons of
Anarchy.
Yep. Which I find funny. So he's on The Walking Dead now. In his IMDb page, it says he also plays bass guitar and was once a member of the rock band The Walking Wounded. But Joe, his character is great, like you said. Basically, what you said about him, and that sense of honor, and that's a good point you brought up about how in 2 episodes you've got a connection to this guy.
Oh, absolutely.
Even though he's sketchy, and so much better than. And I am going to attribute a bunch of it to the actor. I think that he plays. I think he comes into the role he plays the role a little bit better than Morrissey played the governor.
Yeah.
But I like this group. I like, and I mean, me, I tend to like people who wear the they're a little bit gray in their ethics. And I like that group, and it's going to be interesting. That one guy in the group who saw Rick knows what Rick looks like. So when they meet him. And I also like the fact that when
he says he saw him and that's enough for a reckoning.
Yeah,
which is pretty ominous.
And I also like the fact that he's not buying into Terminus at all.
Well, that's the other thing. A lot of people are tweeting and online talking about, do you think that the guy, I don't know, call them the Marauders for lack of a term, or the Muraltones. But do you think the Muraltones, do you think they're connected with Terminus, and do you think they're part of whatever Terminus is? And I'm like, I don't believe so at all.
Oh, no, not at all.
And when he says that, he says, listen, you think that's a lie. You think guys like us are going to be accepted in on a place like that with open arms? No way. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah, I totally agree. I don't think they have anything to do with that. But there's again, I don't want to. I'll try not to do any spoilers here, but there is a storyline in the comic that timeline wise should be coming up fairly soon if they're following on the same timeline, that has Carl, Rick, and Abraham on kind of a journey. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And something, they've come upon a group who then try to do something to, do some bad things to them, and how they deal with that. Some people are speculating that may be turn out to be this group, and that they get their hands on Rick and Carl and Michonne. That's I don't know that storyline may play out there. Because that guy, to your point, that guy is a pretty established actor. He's obviously freaking good. I can't believe that they're going to toss him. You know what I mean? But I also wouldn't be surprised too if they don't end up uniting. Wouldn't that be cool?
That's what I think will happen.
Yeah, you think so?
I think that's the. I think
it seemed pretty ominous the way he, that there was this no way Rick was getting out of some sort of payment, and certainly the way that he dealt with that guy Lester, was it, I think, or whatever.
Yeah, but see the thing. There's that code of honor thing. So I like the fact that he just turned his back and just I called him Bo Guy, whatever. I don't know if they ever said what his name was, but when his boys beat the crap out of him, he's just like, oh, that's just the law. That's what the code we live by. And then if Rick comes out, because that's the one thing that. Well, Rick did kill one of his men, but by the same token, Bo Guy choked out the black guy, so
he killed He already killed one of his men, but then he left them purposefully to turn to attack them, and that I think is what really, because he says it, that just was just you could tell that in his mind. That was totally lacked any moral or.
That was a line that you crossed.
That was a line. Yeah, you crossed the line, and now you got to pay the price.
Yeah.
But so I think something's going to happen with them. Either we're going to have something horrible happening on two fronts, with them and then with Terminus, or they're going to somehow team up and help with the battle with Terminus, I guess. I don't know, whatever Terminus turns out to be.
That's two little plot threads that have to be settled. We've got the plot thread of, Rick's reckoning, and then Tara, and that thing that's now hanging between her and Glenn and Maggie. So all right, so that was all I had for good. What was
definitely Daryl's definitely picking up their trail. I got that. I didn't catch what it was he picked up. He claimed the guy looked down at the edge and said something. And
it was like a strawberry plant.
Yeah, maybe it was. Maybe it was food. But then he definitely, it's implied that he sees the wrapper.
The wrapper.
And I wonder if he isn't putting together, but maybe not. But, it seems like, he's tracking them. He's on to their track already, whatever it would be called.
All right, so what's your bad?
Glenn's stupid decisions. Like going in the tunnel. Now, granted, the tunnel was a great sequence. Very cool. Little hard to swallow that tunnel. I mean, that, first of all, wasn't big enough for a real big train to be going through.
Right.
It was awfully long. How many tunnels turn? It was a little, but...
well, it was a tunnel. It was a tunnel for a little HO train. The kind you run around your Christmas tree.
Yeah, starter set. But even though when you're standing when they were all standing there in front of it, and you can hear the wailing of the zombies inside, you're like, and it's pitch black. It's like, dude, and then how hard would it have been to climb around or go over? I mean, they make it sound like it was Mount Everest. You know what I mean? So, again, I'm willing to go with it because it let the story happen, and they had to come up with something, and it was a really cool environment and a cool shoot, but still bad decisions. I think he's also
Where was Maggie putting? She's leaving signs on. Where's Maggie putting a sign on the side of the tunnel?
Yeah,
Glenn did not go in. Go around.
Well, no, they explained that. You didn't catch that? They explained that because she's the one that caused.
She said she
fired. So when they were going through, it was fine, but it was zombies.
Right, you're right.
So but it still doesn't explain why then there would be zombies on the other side.
Right.
So because they hadn't come out yet, because
And why wouldn't you still see light from the other end of the tunnel?
right, and why would the zombies not be following you? Because
Right.
Team Abraham goes around and parks in front of it, and then it's implied that they come out. So obviously, but the zombies left them and went back. So they're a little bit plot weak there. I think he's being wicked insensitive to Tara. I mean, I think he's got, it's clear he realizes that she's punishing herself. And yet he's like, she can make it. She can do it. No, her knee's busted, dude. No, she can do it. It's like just dragging her along. Come on, let's go in this. If you got a death wish yourself, then go, but don't drag her along, But anyway, he makes up for it, I guess, in the end when he stays with her. Is it realistic that Maggie would be able to shoot down that ceiling with a few bullets and her leftover in her clip?
Okay, so I was thinking about that, when I had heard that, and she said she fired in the ceiling. That's a pretty weak ceiling.
Yeah.
To bring down that much rock.
I know, it's like huge. And
that means that any train going through there, the vibrations would have brought that entire tunnel down. And
this may be also why I had trouble with them post, greeting and finding and reuniting. Because then while they're talking, she's saying, she says, I kept thinking, what would Glenn do? What would Glenn do? And that's when I shot out the ceiling.
Yeah.
Dude, no way. I'm sorry. Glenn would not be thinking like that. Maybe Rick, maybe Daryl,
right.
Maybe even Carol, but not Glenn. You know what I mean? No. So I just didn't, I didn't buy that, as if he was some badass that, she was, you know what I mean? It's like, but, so that bothered me a little bit. We talked about the fact that the walkers were still on the other side when they should have been chasing Team Maggie. I think once he established, when they got up on the rock, and this is what I thought was going to happen, which I would have been more believable. When he got up on top of the rock pile, she's like, what the hell are you doing? And he's establishing, just like she did on the bus,
right,
that she's not there.
Right.
And I thought that's believable. That to me is believable. Now turn around and go back.
That's what I thought they were going to do. Right.
And that's what I thought he was going to do. So then he comes up with this harebrained idea. And again, you can see why all of the subtle, and not so subtle, hints in the earlier parts of the season about fire, about movement, about light. They had to set up things so that they could execute other things, like the burn zombies in the Grove, like the fact that they go to the light here and allow them to get over on the side. So that was kind of interesting. The rescue, the timing of the rescue of Glenn and Tara was a little hard to swallow too.
Right.
Team Abraham is still a little cartoony. I liked it when their first introduction. You, I think, if I recall, thought that they were a little too cartoony.
Yep.
I thought that was going to start to tone down. It didn't really tone down. I'm okay with it in the character of Eugene, because he's quirky, because he's obviously a little bit of a whack out, you know what I mean? So, but the other two, just, the whole thing about the navigating and the arguing with Rosita, and, Abraham is still kind of a putz, and I don't know, they're still a little two-dimensional, I guess, is all and a little bit too dysfunctional to believe that they would have survived so effectively for this long. They're basically dysfunctional as a group. I'm glad though to see that Rosita, she got a bunch of lines, and I'm glad they're not, just kind of letting her be eye candy or something.
Right.
Plus, it was great she put on pants. That was, I thought, smart. Although I missed the hot pants already, but definitely more believable. The last bad I had was the fact that the group walks into Terminus without questioning the lack of activity, the lack of zombies, the lack of people, the open gates. All of that was hard to swallow. Put down your arms, all these signs. You'd have to be freaking brain dead. I think we said a couple episodes ago, the whole way I would handle that Terminus thing would be completely different. I would set up a camp, a good half-mile away or something, and then do excursions out to scope it out, check it out, find out what's going on, spy on it, especially after Woodbury. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, granted, these people have been through hell. They've been out on the road now after the prison. They went through the prison mess. So I think, the writers are trying to say, they're now gullible. They're incredibly weak. They're, vulnerable, So, but I didn't buy it. They're too seasoned, especially Glenn, Maggie, Sasha. Those are seasoned people, man.
Especially, and so I'm going to start with my bad because with that as well is the fact that we had just come off of last episode, 2 episodes ago, where you had Sasha talking about how she was nervous about going to this place, this terminus place, and other people.
Right,
and there's this whole concern about we just had the governor, we had all these people. You've got Abraham, who's supposed to be while he talks a good game with Eugene around, kind of like he's a Abraham clearly is military, but like he's talking like he's got experience.
Right.
He's just going to let them walk into this place. This is a guy he's got to protect. Tell you what, Glenn and your wife, you two go in there, come back out, tell us what's on the inside. We'll cover out here.
Right.
Like you said, the complete sketch of that. There was nobody on guard.
Right.
No zombies around. You got this pristine, Babylonian, little rainforest out there with all these nice flowers and everything. Really? In the middle of, this in Georgia? What is this?
Well, the unlocked gate doors implies that they knew they were coming.
Right.
Because if you've got zombies, and unlocked gates, they're just going to walk in. You know what I mean?
And that whole lower your weapons. Anybody who spends 5 minutes in the zombie apocalypse is not going to be lowering a weapon.
Yeah. And they could have, it could have been done. Now, granted, it couldn't have been done fast. It would have taken up time in terms of showing in the story. But they could have just done what you said. They could have had the group, pull off to the side or surround the place and then send in, 2 people who scope it out. And then have them have contact with whoever's inside, whether it's Mary or whatever, and then become reassured and bring everybody else in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At least that would have been believable.
Or have somebody send out, have them send out, our group shows up and then out comes some priestly guy with robes and, the Jesus motif and come to Terminus. Okay, that I'll get. Okay.
Right.
Okay. But what they did was just wholly unbelievable.
Yeah. Really hard to, no pun intended, hard to swallow. I agree with you on one of the things you brought up. One of my bads continues to be stupid things that people do that they wouldn't be doing in this apocalypse. Glenn going through the tunnel was idiotic. Seriously, did you think at all, if anybody watched that and thought that Tara wasn't going to twist an ankle or get lodged somehow, come on, that was telegraphed. Boy, she doesn't have any luck either. She turns, twists a knee, and then she's not good on rocks either. I mean, didn't she fall in the episode where they meet the governor on the road and twist her ankle, or was that her sister?
Oh, that
one of the two sisters. That was her sister, or was that her?
No, that might have been her. Yeah.
Yeah, one of them fell and twisted her ankle. Remember, and the other one was having to carry her.
This is one of the things that happens. I'm so tired of this. Beth twisted her ankle, or she got in a bear trap. I just hate the damsel twisting her ankle at just an inconvenient moment.
It's funny
spice up suspense.
It's funny you say that because one of the things that drove me nuts was, and maybe this is the parent in me, but. Michonne and Carl on those train tracks, I'm sorry. You're in the zombie apocalypse. You might as well say we're in a war. Right? Now, you're in Afghanistan. You're in war. Right? You're in Iraq. You're in war. You're not going to be doing something that...
You're not
how
doing
easy
hardcore.
It is to twist your ankle doing what they were doing on those tracks?
Yeah.
I mean, granted, you got to lighten up. I know you got to live life and everything else, but it's like you don't have to be stupid.
Right.
You don't have to be stupid.
And that would have been a great spot for even Rick to kind of be like, guys, you're gonna twist an ankle, and then what are we gonna do? And I'm not carrying you, Carl, if you twist an ankle.
That's right.
Something like that would have been
because in this world, in this paradigm, a busted ankle could equal death in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
Because you're now prey in this world. We're so used to living life as the dominant predominant,
The
predator.
apex predator. Yep.
Yeah, we don't have to, we don't worry about that stuff anymore. But in that world, you are prey, and you shouldn't be doing stuff that could easily put you on a wounded list.
I'm just getting tired of that trope. Twisting the ankle and just
Yeah.
ugh, get over it. I like Abraham. I love Michael Cudlitz. I like Abraham. He's, like you said, he's a little too much two-dimensional. He's
too two-dimensional. Yep.
Yeah, he had a funny line. Again, Kathleen, she quoted it for me when he said, "I don't give a monkey's left nut what you think." So he's got these quotable lines, but we got to get more substance to him. And Eugene is probably my biggest bad. Eugene's a moron. Okay,
and that's pretty clear.
If you want quirky, right? You mentioned you want a quirky character. Totally get it. Quirky is kind of like the two scientists, or one of the scientists of the pair on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Okay?
Yeah.
He's like dorky, but he thinks he's funny with the ladies and stuff. Yeah. That's totally fine. Eugene is a moron. There is nobody there, and there's no way you can believe this guy has the answer to the apocalypse, or he's going to save the world. And if Abraham is backing him up, looking at what a moron he is,
right?
Abraham's a moron too.
Well,
but by the same token, because
agree.
Rosita's supposed to have done time with these guys and been around with them,
right?
She's a moron too. And one of the things that really bothers me about Eugene is when they're in the tunnel and Abraham proclaims, as he does to everybody, that this guy here, we've got to get him to Washington because he's got the cure. If you are in the zombie apocalypse, you've done all the stuff that these guys have done, and you hear that the guy next to you, he can solve, he knows what's been going on, would you just be like, oh, yeah, okay, good luck. Let's go to Terminus first, or would you be like, dude, what do you know? How do you know this? What did you do before this?
Confidential. Fuck, man, there's no confidential anymore.
Exactly. I mean, that's all you're going to do. You're going to say confidential, and that's your excuse. So everything that Eugene is involved in just brings this show down a dumb level. Just dumbs it down a little bit. And it's annoying. Eugene is a fraud. I mean, you cannot watch this guy for 2 minutes and not know that he's full of crap.
Well, I agree with you, and I think that's being done purposefully. But I think it's being done way over the top, and to your point, and that they need to be a little bit more subtle with it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
He was a fraud in the comic, and there were certain signals like the mullet and his appearance and stuff that made you, as you're reading it in the comic, think this is hard to swallow. You know what I mean? But that was, at the same time, he had this radio, and he seemed convincing in what he was saying about, Washington and stuff. So you kind of went with it. Then, of course, it becomes clear that he's not, and it's dramatic. But in the TV show, I agree with you. They've just made him cartoony. He's a little bit funny. It's a good comic relief, a little bit, because we've got nothing else like that. But I agree. I think they've gone too far.
Let him sit down and just say, pull out a stick and like draw complex diagrams in the sand and stuff,
right.
And then be like, well, this is what happened. And then later on, but dude, you told us all that scientific mumbo jumbo. And he's like, yeah, I read that in a magazine.
Right.
I mean, like fake it, like
right.
and be a really good fraud and
right. I would say two things about it as well. One is I think that the show hurt themselves with this approach or with this character storyline by establishing in season 1 the CDC thing, which was not part of the comic.
Right.
And that, I think, is really kind of, for most of this crew who went to the CDC and heard all that they heard there, this wouldn't jibe. Immediately bells would be going off saying, hey, we already know what this is about. You know what I mean? So that undercut that. And that makes it harder to believe again. And then secondly, there's a dynamic that's established in the comic that I undoubtedly think they will establish here, or they're trying to establish here, but they're not doing it right. And I agree with you. One is Abraham is not a leader. He's a follower.
Yep.
He's a soldier. That's why him and Rick hook up and do so well together, because all of a sudden Abraham realizes, now I've got somebody to follow. I know how to do that. And he does it really, really well. You know what I mean? but that's not coming across real clear here. You know what I mean? Secondly, Rosita is with them because she's in love with him. She's in love with Abraham.
Mm-hmm.
That would make, sense. Then you'd be like, well, she's putting up with this moron and this whole stupid plot to go to DC because she's in love with him.
Right.
But they haven't established that at all. They haven't even hinted at it yet.
Right.
So I agree. All of that to me kind of makes it hard to swallow. Without that, it's hard to swallow.
So that was pretty much all my bad.
Okay.
So what's your ugly?
My ugly, sadly, this week is bad. It's hard to watch this episode and not be comparing it to last week. It's lacking in the richness and the depth and the character development. The metaphor and the symbolism was gone, or was blatant, like the burning of the picture, compared to last week. Even in the way it was shot, it was like the camera seemed to just be following along, as opposed to not contributing to the mood or storytelling in the way it was shot. Last week's episode was just a thing of beauty. The character development, the camera angles, the way the story unfolded. It was just a masterpiece. Now, every episode can't be a masterpiece. They needed to move the story along and certain plot lines so that they could set up the finale. I get all of that, but part of it I'm thinking is that rather. The structure of the show seems to be that they have different writers and different directors for almost every episode.
Right.
And, that's great in some ways because you get things like last week's episode, where you get masterpieces.
Right.
The downside is that, there lacks some consistency.
Yep.
And there's great swings in the way that it's in terms of the execution. And that sometimes can be frustrating. But I guess I'd rather have it be this way than have there be the writer and the director be the same throughout and have them be bad.
Right.
Which you run the risk.
Right.
So that was my main bad. Then my ugly.
What
was yours?
Mine is. I just want to say something about what you had said about this episode, and it seemed like there was, this was just a walking in place episode to tie up some loose ends and take a pause from the emotional peak that we had from last week's episode. And like you said, I get that and I understand that, but there were things like I made a note in my notes that the opening with Abraham and Rosita, and it was the same opening as last week with Carol and Lizzie at night, and she tells Lizzie, "You need to go to sleep. You're tired." It was the same opening as this week. It was Abraham telling Rosita, "You're tired. You need to lay down." Or no, Tara. He's telling Tara, you're tired, and you need to go lay down. It was like the same kind of beat. A lot of things.
That's a good point.
The burning of the picture. I thought that I have an expectation of what next week of what Terminus is going to be, and I think they wholly telegraphed it.
Yeah.
There was something else that they really telegraphed in this episode too that just annoyed me. They just the Tara walking down, getting her foot caught, and that whole heightened quote unquote suspense.
Right.
That was telegraphed. You didn't do it. I wasn't surprised by any of this.
Part of it was her going in wounded to begin with.
Yeah, I mean,
she's vulnerable, which is kind of like makes it not a surprise when something happens to her.
My ugly is just it's I don't know if it's a good ugly or a bad ugly, but it's just an ugly, and that's Terminus. Terminus is everybody shows up there. Dude, that thing has 17 alarm bells going off just looking at it.
Absolutely.
There's so much wrong with that, and we've already talked about it. There's no walkers around it. You have beautiful gardens out front. You have unlocked gates. Hey, lower your weapons. You have nobody standing guard out front. And, it is ugly that our people just walked in willfully.
Right.
But there's something horribly, horribly wrong there. And what's going to happen, what should happen, is that the people who've survived Woodbury and the prison, if Terminus turns out to be what we think it's going to be, and that goes upside down, they should never, ever, ever go to a civilized location ever again, right?
Right,
because,
but we know that we know if you follow the book that they do.
Yeah,
but
no, this one will be different.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
It's the same thing. But I think that I think there was wordplay. I think there was a telegraph. When Mary turns around and says, "Let me make you a plate," I think it was a telegraph of what to expect, which annoys me. I wish they hadn't done that. And I guess we'll find out next week if I end up being right. But if it ends up being a telegraph,
if they sit down and eat with that woman, they are insane. Right. I will just completely be like so disappointed because given the world they're in now, you would just accept with all those alarm bells, like you're saying, you just sit down and accept chow from this person.
Right.
I'm sorry. It's just plus, granted, you got the whole thing with the prison, the period of time where they were in the prison, which really changed them all, I guess. But think of the team that took the prison. Remember when that's season 3 started? The premiere, man. They've been on the road for 6 months through the winter, right? They have that first cold opening. That was the first quiet opening, not cold opening. First quiet opening that we'd really ever seen, right? No dialogue. They go in, they take that house. They were Action Jackson. You know what I mean?
Right.
they were a well-oiled machine. There was no surprises going to be on them. You know what I mean?
Right.
And now, granted, you got the period of time where they were in the prison and they put their guard down. He becomes a farmer. Blah 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 blah. But after the whole thing with the governor, you'd think they would go back into that mode, and at least some of them, should have remembered what that was like, and to be more suspicious. So, yeah. But we'll have to find out and see.
So I think next episode, the season finale is we're supposed to meet some new characters, and one of them is the intro to a character, Gareth, played by Andrew J. West, who's he's been billed as a remix.
This might be, you might consider that spoilers, so you just might want to just let people know.
That's
out there. I don't know. I've heard it. I haven't read any articles.
I've seen it they're just saying that he's being introduced. It's not. He's like highly anticipated too. Nobody knows like who he's going to be or what he is.
Right.
So
there is some speculation I can share with people. Again, if you think this is not a spoiler in the sense that I know this is the truth,
because we don't know anything.
But it's speculation that he is a conglomeration or a combination of the character in the comics that's the head or leader of the Hunters, and Gabriel, the priest that the group encounters, and that he's some sort of amalgamation of those two characters. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's. I'm guessing bad guy, but don't know.
Right.
I had a couple of other additional thoughts that weren't related to good, bad, or ugly. The fire and smoke from last episode was obviously not Terminus.
No.
So I'm still going with the fact that it was the Shake Shack.
Yeah.
the Moonshine Shack.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
But I don't know. We could see that there might still be something else about that. I asked if you saw the tribute to Bub. I'll post that at the Facebook page.
I think just to interrupt you,
Sure.
I had made a little note too. I think Daryl's poncho made an appearance this week.
I want to know what you thought about that. What did you think about that?
Daryl's poncho on Maggie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? What do you think? Do you think there's anything significant to that? Do you think that's trying to be foreshadowing of the fact that Daryl's might be
laying claim to her?
She's
wearing my poncho, claimed.
Or that maybe it's just that they're going to be reunited at some point, or that
maybe it was just a poncho.
Maybe it's just maybe sometimes a poncho is just a poncho. That's right. Oh, you always go Freud on me. What was up with all the animal references? Okay, we start off with Eugene talking about dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Then we get the indoor-outdoor cat scenario.
Which was a great line. Say that line. Say that line again. This was Joe's line
Joe's
to
line.
Daryl. It's like there's nothing worse than when an outdoor cat thinks he's an indoor cat. There were actually some. I mean, there were given some of the problems that we had in this episode. There were some good lines in it.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, here we go. Ain't nothing worse than an outdoor cat that thinks he's an indoor cat.
Yep.
Yeah. Then you got the bunnies, obviously the chopping of the bunny and all that stuff, and then you got the monkey nuts comment, which you brought up. It just seemed like there was all these animal references, and I don't know if that was on purpose. Or if that was just...
well, it's going to lead into the spin-off, which is Walking Dead Zoo.
But maybe it was just... I don't know. Maybe it was kind of what are animals? They're wild. They prey on each other. I don't know. Or maybe it's just it was just a coincidence. I don't know. Although it was interesting because Eugene's dinosaur reference was about how cool it would be to see dinosaurs attacking each other, dinosaurs attacking other dinosaurs. So I don't know. It's kind of this thought was kind of interesting. I have been reading. I don't know if you guys are listening to or reading. Reading Robert Kirkman's postmortems. They post them over at the Walking Dead official Walking Dead site after the episode, usually the next day, and it's pretty cool. I wanted to read a couple comments or a couple of these his responses. So this is from thewalkingdead.com. They asked this episode we saw a lot more of the dynamic between Abraham, Rosita, and Eugene. Why did you decide to stay so faithful to the comics for these characters in particular? Is this showrunner Scott Gimple's influence? And Robert Kirkman's response was, yeah, Scott Gimple is definitely a guy who's a fan of the comic. He's certainly a fan of those characters, but also I think that the storyline with Eugene, Rosita, and Abraham and their mission to get to Washington, D.C. is a big part of what we're going to be doing with the show in the foreseeable future. If you know the comics, you may have somewhat of a rough idea as to where things might possibly be headed, and we're keeping that storyline fairly faithful when it comes to those characters. And I think keeping them on model, so to speak, is an important part of what we're doing moving forward. And the reason I thought it was significant, I want to read it, is that it seems to be saying they're definitely following the whole Washington storyline,
right? Which
is cool because I'm anxious to see them get out of Georgia. You know what I mean? And I think that's going to be really cool. That's going to be hard to pull off a little bit because I can't imagine them shooting in D.C. But certainly they could get areas that look like it and then do, I guess, background shots and stuff, stock shots. This was an interesting thing I thought too, because we've talked about in the past seasons, especially the ethnicity balance, and there was a whole uproar last season. I'd say about mid season of last season about African American characters in the show and how they were like you couldn't have two black men at the same time, and it was just anytime they were introduced they got killed right away, and T-Dog got taken out without really ever getting a chance to be developed as a character, and it was kind of becoming an Achilles tendon type of thing, and they've really addressed that a lot. And this was an interesting question. The Walking Dead has a gay woman, 3 black main characters, a Latina main character, an Asian main character, an interracial couple, a ginger, and a mullet. Is Walking Dead the most ethnically diverse show on television? And was that intentional at all? And Kirkman's response was, I feel like we're not doing enough, so it's definitely intentional. We haven't had a Muslim character. That's certainly something that has been on my mind. I think it's important to finally make a concerted effort to show the diversity of the American population, and I especially feel a responsibility because the show is so popular and watched to use it as an opportunity to get the diverse characters you don't normally see on television. I feel like it would be wrong for us to not use that as an opportunity, and everyone on the show is invested in telling great stories and adapting the comic book and honoring what we do in the comic, and certainly some of that comes from the comic, but it's really just a matter of telling interesting stories, and those characters and their backgrounds certainly add interesting elements to the stories in the show, and I hope we'll continue that trend moving forward. So I think they really responded to the feedback they were getting on that. And then the last one I had from that was, can you tell us anything about Terminus? Is it good news or is it bad news? And he says, Terminus could be what it is on face value, or it could be high. This is Kirkman's response. Terminus could be what it is on face value, or it could be hiding something darker. We do try to change things up, so it's entirely within the realm of possibility. The Terminus is all lemonade and sunshine and recliners and pajamas. So we'll see. Maybe the season has a happy ending.
You're right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I believe that one. All right, so before we get to some
Shout-outs.
Facebook shout-outs, so how many headshots you give it?
I gave it 4. I gave it 4.
You're always so liberal with your
I'm just liberal, dude.
headshots. You're so liberal with your headshots. I gave it a 3.
Okay.
What was your zombie of the week? Zombie kill of the week?
Zombie kill of the week. My zombie of the week was the one that slides its face against the barbed wire at Daryl's camp.
Yeah, that was
just
awesome.
Nauseating. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, God. The zombie kill of the week was by far the soccer mom takedown that by Abraham. I thought that was so cool. And the way he used the door to hold her in position while he's stabbing her, it just was, and then he just yanks her out like she's so much trash, you know. Just, ping. But so that was my zombie kill of the week. What was yours?
Yeah, that was mine too.
Go ahead.
Then a character of the week?
I know you hated him, but I picked Eugene. I found him kind of funny. I found him entertaining. I liked how he did the whole twist of the navigation to end up on the other side. He is dumb, but he's also smart, and I don't think they're doing a great job of communicating that, but he's not a scientist clearly. Mm-hmm. But he isn't dumb. You know what I mean? He's also got some smarts, about him, and he knows that the more people that they have, especially good people, the safer he is.
Right. And
as we know from the comic and everything, Eugene's just trying to look out for himself the best way he can. He's not, he's clearly not a good shot.
Yeah.
And although in hindsight, that may have been completely intentional.
What do you mean?
He, if you believe what we believe, that this whole thing with Washington is bogus, then he's in no hurry to run off to Washington.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
And he's got horrible aim. Well, maybe not. Maybe he did that on purpose in order to undermine the effort to get out sabotage it. Yeah. So he was my character of the week. What about you?
Mine was Joe.
Oh, I thought it would be Glenn.
Yeah, right. No, he was better this episode. I definitely give him that. But
Joe's good. Joe's a good pick too. If I could pick two.
Joe might be next season. Might be a frequent character of the week for me because I like him. Starting to like him.
Yeah. Well, that means he'll probably die next week.
I know.
Don't get too attached.
I mean, I could probably watch an entire episode about Glenn, and he would still not be my character of the week.
Yeah. Well, notice they didn't really give him a full episode the way they did some of the others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to read. We got this Facebook shout out to Kathleen, who said, "So I watched last week's episode before the new one, and I got to say that this week's really paled in comparison." Which we totally agree. I'm going to give this episode 3 out of 5 headshots. Clearly, Kathleen is reading my monitor and copying my work. Here's my rundown, she says. The good, I guess I'm getting excited about the gang starting to meet up. However, Terminus is feeling like a worse Woodbury. Creepy. The bad, I have 2. Joe's group are just scumbags. Just gross, man. My second was just how painful and hysterical it was to watch Eugene trying to get into Tara's pants. Like, it's gone around the internet. It's gone around the internet. You know, the people have commented about how he says, "Yeah, you know, you're ridiculously hot," and she's like, "I'm into girls, dude," and he's like, "Yeah, I knew that." And it was just, and there's people. I can't believe there's actually debate about it. There are people who are like, "Well, did he really know that?" Or, "No, dude, that's a knee-jerk reaction." Like any of us who've been shot down. Yeah. I knew that. I was just
The actor even said that on Talking Dead.
Yeah.
He was like, he just doesn't want to like look stupid.
So Kathleen's ugly was, she said, I was just like meh when Glenn and Maggie finally met up. I'm so over these two. Yeah, it's kind of agree with you there. Her character of the week was Abraham for the line, I don't give a monkey's left nut what you think. Her zombie kill of the week, she didn't really have one, so she says she's just going to carry over one from last week. Here's a random question, she asks, why the hell wouldn't Glenn have given the flashlight to Tara to hold, as he was the only one holding a gun that I saw? Why wouldn't have given the flashlight to Tara? So was he holding the gun?
He must have been holding the gun and the flashlight, and she's wandering around in the dark, breaking her ankles.
An idiot. Yeah.
Well, I'm telling you, the whole way he's treating her. It's like she's some sort of wounded dog, and he's just like beating on her, you know. Get over here, let's do this. Come on, I don't care that you're hurt, you know. We're gonna get my wife, and I'm gonna.
But the thing is that But what's even funny about that though is that she doesn't do anything.
Well, that's because she's got filled with self-hate, having been part of the whole thing at the.
But why? But Maggie gets up again. Maggie's the male in that relationship. Maggie just gets up and is like, "I'm going to get Glenn," and off she goes. Why does Glenn need? A traveling companion, Right. I mean, I get that if you've got to move stuff and climb stuff and you need a second pair of hands. She doesn't have, she does have a gun, right? Or she doesn't? I
don't know if she had a gun. They were all out of bullets. They only had like 6 bullets left or something.
Yeah. So she's a liability.
Stephen Yeun was asked about it a little bit, and his response on Talking Dead was kind of interesting in that he said that Glenn sees in Maggie what he saw in himself after the whole thing happened, what he sees in Tara is himself back when the whole thing happened with Maggie and the governor, and that at that point he kind of had like a death wish, and or maybe it wasn't that, maybe it was before that when he was always jumping down the well, like he jumped down the well and stuff. I mean, he was just kind of a loose, he was just he kind of just didn't have any kind of self-respect for himself. And he kind of sees that in her, and he's trying to kind of help her through that. But I don't know how getting her almost eaten is helping her.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Kathleen. That was a great review, and very insightful and awesome. And
right in next week on the finale. Let us know what you
we definitely
got for that one.
Want to hear what people are saying. We had a couple other. Shout outs we wanted to give and people that wrote in. Charles Rios wrote, "Yikes, I think we're going to lose Maggie. I don't know why, but something tells me she's going to bite it. I really hope I'm wrong." I hope you're wrong too, Charles, but anything's possible. They certainly are building up the whole Maggie Glenn thing that in a way that makes you think one of them might be biting the dust.
Yeah, especially when she burns her picture. I mean,
yeah. You won't need this anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's going to be Glenn. Maybe it's going to be Glenn. I think I could see that happening more than Maggie.
I think they need.
Because I think something's happening with Beth. I don't think they're going to terrorize both sisters.
No, they need a holy crap moment to end the season.
Yeah.
I mean, something that everybody's going to be talking about and brings you back. Brings 15 million people back for episode 1 next season. So,
all right. Well, Charles, that was a great comment. Thanks so much for writing in. We had another one from Rob. I listened to a lot of Walking Dead. This is Rob Bagaleos. I listened to a lot of Walking Dead podcasts. Most just go through the talk about what they did and didn't like, and that's fine. But I like how you guys really dug into the episode and talked about things most missed or just glossed over. Cool, Rob. Glad you like that. That's good. As a reader of the comic, I stopped comparing the two And while I enjoy seeing some things from the comic, I don't want the show to be a panel for panel. Yeah, I'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
it's nice seeing little nods to the comic, but
absolutely.
Yeah, otherwise you end up with something that's like 300,
right?
Which was just panel by panel.
Yeah, no, I agree. And also for people who've read the book, it's nice to know kind of that there's going to be surprises. There's stuff that you don't know is going to happen. If they just went panel to panel, everybody would know what was going to happen that reads the book. He goes on to say, I like how the show changes things up, mixes characters, plots, expands, or just does things totally different from the comic. I love and enjoy both as their own separate mediums. Yeah, I'd agree with that, Bob. I hope the show isn't in a rush to get to Negan. And we've talked about this. I totally agree.
Yeah.
And I actually wouldn't mind seeing the fragmented group spill over to the next season. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen with Terminus having been reached, but yeah, I was really enjoying those individual episodes. Great work, guys. Well, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the next 2 episodes. Will you guys do pods over the break?
So Kirk and I have talked about this that over the break, in order to help him get through his depression that's watching this on TV. We want to podcast. We keep doing podcasts. Probably do it like once every couple weeks or so. But we could talk about the comics. We can watch movies and talk about the movies. Or so what everybody who's a faithful listener to us, write in to us and either email or on the Facebook and let us know. Did I just call it the Facebook? Oh my God! I'm like
the Facebook, man. The Facebook.
Like
FB. Just call it FB.
Yeah, so I meant the Facebook page, but let us know what you want us to talk about, because we can read novels and comics and we'll watch the crappy movie for you and tell you if you need to watch it.
I think we'll just we'll probably try to keep it focused a little bit on the zombie genre, but also spill over into comics in general and movies and whatever's kind of going on. We'll try to we'll take in your comments and posts over the next week or so, and before we record our season finale episode, we'll try to kind of nail down at least what the next episode is going to be about, or the kind of general idea of the things we will cover, so that we can let you know at the end of that next episode, so that it's not so that people know what to look for and can anticipate that.
And we'll have news, and we'll try to keep up on. We definitely will keep up on news with The Walking Dead and the TV show, and what developments are coming on.
Absolutely,
coming out about the spin-off and
and there'll definitely be. There's going to be lots of stuff going on with the comic, obviously, because that'll be out every month, and the show. We're heading into comic convention season, so there'll be a lot of announcements, I'm sure, and as we hear them, we'll definitely put them here.
And I just wanted to say, too, about people who may be curious about the comic book but not know where to get it, or, hey, Kirk and I go to comic stores all the time. We know how creepy walking into a comic book store can be. So if you don't want to do that, you can download apps, digital apps online, to your iPad or iPhone, and, download Walking Dead issues that way. They look awesome on the iPad. I love reading them digitally, and I'm not sure if Walking Dead is Kindle, if they've Kindled it on Amazon, but
don't know. I have not made the jump to digital comics.
But you can, but if you're if you're sketched out by going into a CD comic book store, just download it online. Comixology, get the app; it's free, and then you can just get what you want.
We had one more comment. It's an old one that Jeff, I think, is going to talk to, from Rob Stevens. You got that? I sent you.
I don't have that in front of me.
Okay, I'll do it.
Oh wait, you emailed it to me.
Yeah, I emailed it to you. I'll give the background while you search it. A number of weeks back in February, actually, we got into a discussion during our review of the episode that week, and the question came up as to what age a child actor can fire an actual firearm on the set in regards to Carl. And we asked anybody in the audience that was listening that might know that information to post up about it. And Rob wrote us and gave us some nice information on that, and we forgot to read it online. We wanted to make, or on the show, and so we wanted to do that.
Yeah. So Rob sent me an article on Daily Dead, and it was from February 7th, and there was an interview with Chandler Riggs, and they said, thanks for taking the time to talk to me, Chandler. I really enjoyed seeing where the writers have been taking Carl in season 4. What was one of your favorite moments from the first half? And his response was, I am such a huge Phineas and Ferb fan, so being in scenes with Vincent was really cool. My favorite moment this season was when Andy presented my machine gun at 12:01 a.m. on my birthday and demanded, get this man some bullets. At 14, I can finally fire real guns on set.
But I'm bump, and there's the answer.
There you go.
So, Rob, thank you very much for getting us that information. He also mentioned that he's found us via the Walking Dead cast, which is really cool. Karen and Jason do a great show. We were on it recently. We're trying to get them to come on to our show, and everyone should definitely check out Walking Dead cast as well. It's a great show. So thanks for finding us, Rob. We hope you're still listening, and we appreciate your support.
All right. I think that's about it for this week.
Only other news thing I had was I saw that the FearNet put up an article about the fact that there's a Marilyn Monroe zombie hunter movie that's in the works.
Wow.
And it's going to feature Scream Queen Sarah French, who I'm not familiar with, although the pictures of her look pretty good, in the lead as Marilyn. It's, I guess, like, Lincoln Vampire Hunter was a success. Now, so they're going to try and do something with Marilyn. I guess it's going to take place in the 60s, so it's kind of a period piece. She gets enlisted by the president. And that's funny that they're calling that enlisted now. But she gets enlisted by the president to fight zombies. So I wonder if it's going to be Kennedy. I guess it would be, huh?
That might be one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. Yes,
it does sound absolutely stupid, and I won't miss it.
So speaking of ridiculous, I don't know if this is the one that was banned. I just saw a clip of this just in passing yesterday, and I'll find it and I'll put it on the Facebook page. But Ashley Madison. You know Ashley Madison? This is the website that is designed for adults to cheat. It's like a cheating marketplace. Really? So you put up a profile and, it's done huge. Anyway, they've got an ad that's called Bring Your Marriage Back to Life. So it uses zombies in the TV spot. So I just... It's just funny how pervasive and in what corners you will find the zombie genre. It says in the ad here, it's actually on YouTube. It's Ashley Madison is labeled a casual dating site, but they're known for if you want to cheat, this is where you do it. Don't be a zombie. Bring your marriage back to life with Ashley Madison. I don't know how cheating necessarily brings your marriage back to life. But,
how does it have anything to do with zombies?
You get into a rut and you want to do something. I have no idea.
That's weird. I can't. I'd like to know. I'd like to be the fly on the wall to the marketing company that pitched that to them. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna come up with this great ad campaign. It's gonna be zombies, and the zombies are gonna be involved, and somehow that's gonna help.
Okay. Here. Bear with me. Here it is. Zombies and adultery. Go!
Action!
All
right, guys.
All right, next week, season finale.
Do we know the name of it?
The end? Terminus, isn't it?
Terminus? I don't know.
We should know this stuff.
Yes, I know. We have a podcast.
Don't we say this like every week? We should know this.
We should know this.
This is like what Scott and I say over on the Comrades podcast. We should know this stuff.
We should know this.
Anyway,
listen, everybody, thanks so much for listening. Post up on Facebook. Give us your reviews of the episodes. We'll put them up. We'll shout them out on the show. And follow us. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. And
rate us on iTunes.
Yeah,
this is like a mantra. Follow us. Rate us. And then be there Sunday night for the live tweeting.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man.
All right.
Take it easy, guys.
See everybody next week.
Peace.
If you would like to donate to help pay for this and other Southgate Media Group podcasts, simply go to our website, southgatemediagroup.com, and click on the donate button. It can be as little as $1 or, well, as much as you want. Help keep this fun going by supporting this and our other shows. Thanks again for listening, everyone. You're the best fans in the world.